Welcome to the Legally Speaking podcast. You are now listening to season 7 of the show. I'm your host, Rob Hanna. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Jen Shipley. Jen started at 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿 as a paralegal, where she then went on to train as a solicitor. Jen is now an associate solicitor specialising in medical negligence and patients' rights. She is also an Association of Personal Injury Lawyers senior litigator. Jen is a strong advocate for those wanting to enter the legal profession, providing much of her wisdom on LinkedIn for aspiring lawyers. Jen was previously the Resourcing and Development Director for 𝐥𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿, a registered charity supporting diverse lawyers. In the Legal 500 2022, Jen was named Key Lawyer. So, a very warm welcome, Jen.
Pleasure to speak to you today, Rob. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And before we dive into all your amazing projects, experiences, and everything you're doing for the community, we do have a customary icebreaker question here on the Legally Speaking podcast, which is, on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very real, what would you rate the hit TV series Suits in terms of its reality of the law, if you've seen it?
Oh, fantastic question. And I did do a recent LinkedIn post about this, so right up my street. Well, apart from the fact that Mike is not an attorney, but gets hired by the top law firm in New York, apart from that, that little fact aside, I would have to say we're lower down the list. So maybe 1 or 2, although I must admit, I'd really like to give mudding a go. I don't know about you, but it just looks so fun. I don't know many lawyers, particularly in the UK. I can only speak for the UK, but I don't know many lawyers who on their lunch break just go for a quick mud. But it sounds quite fun. But generally, that aside, it's an amazing show. It's so fun, and I do put on an episode every now and again just for a bit of light relief, but not very realistic.
Not very realistic. I think we'll give it 1.5. And we're big fans of Lewis Litt and his muds. But with that, we need to move swiftly on to talk all about you. So would you mind, Jen, telling our listeners about your sort of background and career journey?
Sure, yeah. So I knew from a young age, when I say young age, I don't actually know the age I was when I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but pretty much as soon as I knew that I had, what I was thinking about wanting to do, I thought, I really want to be a lawyer. I do have a slight reference point of Legally Blonde. Elle Woods was a massive inspiration in my life. I think it was 97 or 98 that film came out. Might have been slightly later. But I just remember thinking, she is amazing. She's broken all the stereotypes. Just look at her go. And I was always into English, horrible at maths, much to my accountant father's dismay. He used to help me so much, but I just never used to get it, basically. So I stuck to my strengths. I did GCSEs, did quite well at that, did much better at A-levels than I anticipated, but based on my predicted grades, which, was still amazing uni, but not where I wanted to, I wanted to be a lawyer. So I wanted to go straight into law ideally, but I went to go do English at Nottingham with a view to doing the law conversion course. I hated it. I cried every day. I went to every lecture and thinking, I really don't want to be here. This isn't what I want to do. Didn't enjoy it one bit. So I dropped out after the first semester. Couldn't believe I was doing it. Was I a failure? Would I ever make it as a lawyer? Took the rest of the year as a gap year, basically just worked, tried to figure out what I wanted, reapplied, and thankfully I had decent grades behind me for A-level, so I was able to apply to do law, and I went to Cardiff Uni. There were still lots of tears, Rob, but it was definitely a different experience, and I knew it was the right place for me. So 3 years at Cardiff, loved it. Obviously ups and downs associated with uni. At times I struggled to find my place. I certainly wasn't motivated I didn't have the drive that a lot of my friends did on the course to actually apply for training contracts, VAC schemes. I was just enjoying uni, but at the same time, in hindsight, I really just didn't put any effort into it. I just kind of thought that can wait until after my degree. Finished my degree, and I really didn't know where I was. I was almost finding my feet, as a lot of people are after they finish a degree.
Yeah.
And I then decided that I was going to go straight on to do the legal practice course, because I just wanted to get that out of the way. In a way, I was just felt as though I wasn't really looking forward to it, but I didn't really necessarily want to wait to be sponsored, particularly as I had no background of applying. It could have been it could be a number of years until I actually do that. And particularly, a lot of firms don't sponsor for the LPC. So I was very aware of that. So I went and did it, worked full time alongside a full time LPC, which in hindsight was really, really difficult. And it led to me failing one of my core exams, which at the time, Rob, it felt as though the world was crashing down around me. I was a failure.
Yeah.
I just didn't know, how I could come back from it. It genuinely was the first time I'd failed anything. I thought, this is it. I'm not going to be a lawyer now, because who fails business law and property and then goes on to be a successful lawyer? And I had to actually, go to the university I was doing the LPC at and make a case to have do my exams at the same time as my summer exams, because this was an early exam in the year. And I managed to get them to, they agreed to let me sit that at the same time and retake it. So I was able to pass the LPC. Started at a small firm, didn't enjoy it, wasn't right fit for me. Again, felt I was back to square one, went back to a retail role, thought, this is where I am now. I'm in retail, perfectly great profession. That's what I've been doing throughout. But, I just thought this is where I am now. My dreams of being a lawyer are over. And then something just made me think, you know what? I've got to just give this another go. I can't just let this end here. So it was the end of 2012. And I just looked online and I saw a role being advertised for a paralegal in the international personal injury team at 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿. And I thought, right, I'm going to just give this a shot. So back then, I sent my CV and my covering letter to the head of recruitment. And then I got a call and I went in, first time I'd ever set foot in a big law firm, thinking, oh, this is a bit big and scary. Went in for the interview and thankfully got offered the job, and started in December 2012, so just over 10 years ago, and I haven't looked back, Rob. I think, there was so much, and then that in itself was just the start, because that was as a paralegal role. Whilst I was there, I eventually secured an internal training contract after a couple of years, but I was applying to every firm you could possibly imagine for a training contract in the meantime. I basically spammed everyone's inboxes, which is definitely not the right thing to do. And I would not advise any aspiring lawyers to do that. But I just went for quantity, not quality. And that really, it was difficult. It was so demoralizing. Barely got any responses. When I did, a flat out no, nice try. And I just look back now and I think, actually, that time as a paralegal, all of the resilience I built up associated with applications has made me the lawyer I am, and I wouldn't be where I am without it. So sorry, that wasn't the most succinct background, but hopefully it gives you a bit of insight into me.
No, and it's very helpful because, we have listeners from right at the start of their journey to people currently going through their career journey. And, I always talk about, wits, and it was when we had Samantha Lewis on in season 1, whatever it takes. And I love the mindset there. And you used the word I was going to talk about, resilience. You've shown great resilience. So if people have been experiencing setbacks, it doesn't always necessarily feel good at the time, but I love the fact that you said, I can't let this go. I'm going to give this another shot. And that's what I'd encourage people listening to this. Give it that extra shot. Don't give up, because, it makes you stronger when you come out the other side of it. And as you say, it's been a success story thereafter. When you secured that paralegal role, you then got your training contract. So let's talk about your training contract. What seats did you choose and what were you allocated?
So I paralegaled in international personal injury. So I was doing illness work. So people that go on holidays and got ill abroad, could be in a package situation, holiday situation, or on cruise ships. For example, those were common ones. And then I actually continued to do my first seat in that department. But I was able to, didn't have a caseload after that. So I had quite a high caseload as a paralegal. Then that didn't have that. So I was able to help on some higher value work, actually really hone my skills in that particular area. It did give me a head start because obviously I'd already paralegaled there, but that was really good. I then moved on to serious injury, and I loved that. I really loved that area of law. I thought it was fascinating. I worked so closely with the partners, senior members of the team. Went to, I did a lot of spinal cases, so spinal work, which I found really interesting. Some quite severe brain injury cases. I really, really enjoyed it. And then I did medical negligence, which is where I qualified into. And that just had my heart from the start because it was a combination of the law, but also medicine, which is such a fascinating mix. And I say to this day that every day is a school day, and I'm so open to learning. So there are some areas of the body, anatomy, that I'm more familiar with than others in terms of from a legal perspective, from a medical perspective. But then there are some areas which I don't know much about at all. So I'm so open to learning about those day in, day out. And I think that's the fascination of it, really. And that's why I really enjoyed it. And you just got to I get to support people day in, day out, often the most difficult times of their lives. They never thought they'd be in this position. It's a real privilege to actually be able to support them and to provide that helping hand. Goes far beyond often just being a lawyer. You become a confidant to your clients. You become that trusting hand, that reassurance during it all. And I think that it is such an honour and a privilege. I can put it no other way, really.
Yeah, and you do a tremendous job. And, we talk a lot about on the show a human connection, and you're really building that human connection with your, the people, not client, the people that you're working with, because they are humans, and becoming that trusted advisor. And you answered my question I wanted to ask about why medical negligence. And I love that you kind of mentioned the two combinations coming intertwined. But let's talk a little bit more about the area you specialize in terms of medical negligence and patient rights, because you're touching on it. But what is your area of law all about, and what are patients' rights? You may not be quite familiar.
Sure. So medical negligence spans a whole different range of substandard care, effectively. So as you can imagine, it's a high threshold to bring a medical negligence claim because there'd be claims left, right and centre otherwise. Two-stage tests, so you have to establish that the care provided, that no reasonable doctor should have provided that care in that circumstances. So even if 1 in 100 doctors would have thought that the care provided was reasonable to you, then you would be unable to prove that breach of duty, effectively, that they breached their duty of care to you. And the second element of the legal test is causation. So you have to, and this is often the most difficult, because you may be able to successfully establish that someone has breached their duty of care to you, but what you then have to show is that that has caused you to suffer an avoidable injury. So we obviously have clients that have already got underlying medical conditions because that's why they're seeing a doctor to begin with, but that actually that's worsened their condition or caused them to suffer more pain and suffering than they otherwise would have done. So that can be in any context. So that can be, if they go to hospital by the NHS or privately, or it can also be if they receive care through their GP. There could be dental care they receive, cosmetic care. There's all sorts of different avenues for this. And ultimately, the person that's treating them owes them a duty of care. So that's where that comes about, really. But I would just say that, if anyone is unsure, I think that's the best avenue really has been LinkedIn, Rob, just through my having that LinkedIn, building that profile that I have has just enabled people to actually contact me directly about things. Whereas as opposed to, I know it's quite daunting to actually call up maybe a legal firm or someone you don't know. Whereas actually if you get to know someone a bit, even if you don't know them, you feel like you know them a little bit through social media, LinkedIn. It actually has allowed people to reach out when they maybe otherwise wouldn't have done. So I just say, if you're unsure, ask the question. there's no harm in asking that question and finding out whether that is something someone can assist with. But yeah, that hopefully that's a bit of a snapshot.
Yeah, no, and I think you made two good points, particularly around, you know, the sort of 1 in 100 and the causation. I think it's good to kind of get some clarity around that. And yeah, we're going to talk about all things LinkedIn very, very shortly, because yeah, you're absolutely right. That's where you build this sort of online presence, and you know, you feel like you know people. It makes it a lot more human, and it brings people closer together as part of that community. But before then, what are your thoughts on solicitors showing emotions when dealing with cases? Can lawyers be emotionally invested in their work, or should they just be like robots?
Oh, this is a topic that's very close to my heart. They absolutely should show emotion. I'm categorical about this. No lawyer is a robot. They can put on a facade. They can actually, they may think there may be this perception that lawyers need to be really hard-nosed and just put on this perception in order to best support their client because they can't be seen to be showing emotion, or, it's game face time. But actually, in reality, I think that emotions are key to my job, and showing empathy, being, showing my clients care, and it is incredibly important. It's vital to my role. I appreciate that there are different areas of the law where maybe it's less relevant. So, in sort of a corporate commercial, for example, maybe that's wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to cry with your client when you're drafting a contract, but but equally it might
Tears
be.
Of joy, maybe.
It might be.
Yeah.
If it's been a particularly hard fought one, then who am I to say? I just say it as in jest, but in terms of, from my perspective, I've cried with my clients taking witness statements. I have really felt the emotions, and actually that in turn has enabled them to open up to me more, and we've developed a closer, more trusting relationship, because medical negligence cases can go on for 3, 4, 5 years. So during that time, you do speak to your clients a lot, and it becomes so important to have that. And I've never had anyone turn around and say, "Why are you just showing emotion to me? Why are you, being like this? Come on, toughen up. Give me, my clients appreciate it. They feel as though they're valued. They're not just another client." And I try and build relationships with each and every one of them. And I think that's so important. I mean, I went to a wedding of one of them a couple of years ago, and I had a shout out in the best man speech. And it was just so, and everyone kept coming over to me and talking to me. They knew who I was, and it felt as though it was beyond a lawyer client relationship. In terms of, it just felt so much more than that. And life changing injuries where actually you felt like you made a real difference. It went beyond money. And I think that's the important thing. Whilst I can only recover monetary compensation for clients, at the same time, it becomes so much more than that. They feel heard. And often this might be for the first time where, often it is a case they felt fobbed off, or they felt as though they haven't had that apology that they felt they were owed in relation to care. So I think from that perspective, that's part of the role. And I think that makes me the lawyer I am. And I wouldn't change. And I have been told to toughen up. I've been told that, come on, Jen, what's going on? You can't be a lawyer if you're showing emotion. But actually, completely disagree. And I would just encourage anyone that is listening just to actually embrace who they are. And if that's a side of you which, has that softer side, you don't have to go in every day and start crying at work. That's not what, it's about. Like, crying's just one form of emotion, but actually there are so many ways in which you can connect with your clients and colleagues. And I just feel as though that's a really important message for me, particularly with aspiring lawyers, I'd say, who possibly are trying to find their feet, trying to enter the profession, not quite sure what they're able to do or what they should mask of themselves, how they should come across. Embrace it. Just be yourselves. That would be the best bit of advice I could give you.
Yeah, we're born original, don't die a copy. Be yourself. It's such a valuable message you share, and I love that story of the wedding. And it's authentic, empathetic relationship building. It's really meeting people where they're at. And I always say to people, in whatever walk of life what you do, it's actually not what you do for people, it's how you make them feel. If you can make them feel truly valued, heard, and understood, that is the way to really winning in any form of life, really, when it comes to relationships. So thank you for sharing that. That was really, really powerful. Let's talk about LinkedIn then, because you have amassed over sort of 20,000 followers. Can you share with us your LinkedIn journey? When did you start posting and what inspired you to post?
Absolutely. So I kind of fell into LinkedIn. I I was a very sporadic poster a number of years ago. Occasionally would post something, celebration of something, or as the fancy took me, once a year. And then and then it was during the pandemic when, like so many people, we'd gone into lockdown. I struggled, particularly from a psychological perspective. I really did struggle. I felt quite disconnected. This was a common feeling, I know, that a lot of people felt, and it was certainly true for me, where I just felt as though I just needed to connect in a way, because we're cut off from colleagues, cut off from friends, family, and I turned to LinkedIn a little bit as a sort an outlet. And
Yeah.
I always remember the first post I went to write, and I thought, I'm so nervous, cold sweats. I was literally,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm not sure I want to do this. It was, a proper decent chunky post as well. I think I was talking about, I've suffered night terrors really badly in the past. I still get them, but definitely worse in the past. And I think I just shared that. And I was honestly, I read it about 10 times, petrified
Yeah.
for there being any spelling mistakes. How's this going to be construed? What's going to, I'm laying
Yeah.
myself out here. What's the feedback going to be? Do you know what? I hit the post button and not a lot happens. Like, in terms of, you certainly don't gain an audience overnight. And
No.
actually but most importantly, the sky didn't fall down. And, and I felt so much better for the fact I'd actually taken the plunge and done that. So over the course of the next few months, so we're talking 2020 here, I just started posting. I made a conscious decision to post regularly. I didn't have a
Yeah.
prescriptive amount I was going to post. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to post. There were some really good people who I was turning to. I think Sahar Faruqi has just been a massive, just a great influence. I've heard his podcast with you. I just think he's so inspiring. There was so many people who I actually thought, wow, fair play to you. You are really, this is what I respect. This is actually, there are people like me who want to actually share. And so I just started doing it, and I really found that my content started to resonate, particularly with aspiring lawyers, because I tended to focus on my journey into the profession, how it wasn't smooth sailing, failure's just part of the overall picture. And, I shared about failing my exams, about my 100 failed applications for a training contract. And I showed a bit of vulnerability, which was not easy to begin with at all. And I kept questioning myself, and I was a little bit afraid of trolling, or you do worry a bit about it. And I can understand that actually for people starting out, there's a big concern about that. Am I going to get backlash for things I post? But I particularly found with LinkedIn, I'm sure you'll feel the same, Rob, it's such a supportive community that I just didn't have that. Quickly that fear evaporated, and I started to just find my rhythm with it. And I did post regularly, and all of a sudden I'd built this community around me who were so supportive, and were actually they're saying they were benefiting from my content, which was quite crazy for me, because hang on, I've got something that's worthwhile putting out there that people want to hear. I just couldn't quite believe it. But it was, when you get that feedback, it's a confidence boost for yourself. And then in turn, it enables you to carry on sharing, and it motivates you. And I just feel as though it's gone from strength to strength. And now it's part of my self-care routine. So I will post and I feel good for posting. So whereas actually this perception of social media as a whole, I would say, is much more negative in terms of focusing more on other platforms. But there's a feeling of, oh, actually, do people come away and not feel good after reading, looking at social media? Whereas I felt good for sharing, and I don't think it's negative. I read other people's posts, and I'd say as a whole, it's a generally positive platform. And that has been really amazing for me. And I've developed a personal brand, which it's great, both obviously from an organization for my firm, but also I feel as though I'm able to do that for myself as well. Gosh, that's so cringy. I've just heard that back. Personal brand.
No, but it's true. It's so true though. And I just want to sort of unpick a few of the things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Firstly, we're big fans of Sahar. I think he's great. That lawyer off LinkedIn, as he says, he's fantastic. But I want to hark back to that first post you made. I always say to people when it comes to content creation, what's unique is the fact that it's you, and the fact that you were so nervous is exactly the post to post. Because that vulnerability is going to hit someone. It may not hit everyone from day one, and it may not go viral. And that's never the objective anyway, in my opinion, when it comes to content. It's about feeling good.
Yeah.
Are you, your audience and your tribe will build, because increased vulnerability, increased visibility. That's the number one way to try and really get a brand and get out there. If you try and fake it, mask it, copy what other people are doing, just rehash things, it's not authentic, and people won't connect with that. And you have done a fantastic job in doing that. And yeah, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. As a lot of people know, I work with LinkedIn. I help them with product rollouts. Been a big fan with them, and it is a supported platform. I do think you can go to noisier other platforms, which there's a lot more chaos going on, but it's the largest professional networking platform in the world. There's so many people out there you can connect with, your next mentor, and I think you've done a tremendous job. So you have a phenomenal personal brand. It's not cringy whatsoever. So I'm going to strike that out. Time for a short break from the show. Are you looking for a way to get your firm working more efficiently and profitably while ensuring a better work-life balance for your team? Well, if you haven't considered our sponsor 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐿, I'm here to strongly recommend that you do. I absolutely love working with 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐿. Not only is it the world's leading legal practice management and legal client relationship management software, it also has a really solid core mission to transform the legal experience for all, something I personally support. What sets 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐿 apart for me is their dedication to customer success and support. There are lots of legal softwares out there, but I know from talking to 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐿 users that their support offering is miles ahead of the rest, with their 24/5 availability via email, in-app chat, and over the phone. Yes, you can actually call in and speak to someone. 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐿 is also the G2 crowd leader in legal practice management, in comparison to 130 legal practice management softwares, and has been for the last 14 consecutive quarters. G2 Crowd is the world's leading business solutions review website. You can check 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐿's full list of features and pricing at www.𝐤𝐬𝐬.com/legally-speaking. That's www.clio.com/legally-speaking. Now back to the show. And I'm going to dive in a bit quicker into one of your posts as well, because I also love your idea, by the way, because you've started assisting aspiring lawyers, for people who may not be familiar, about posting their CVs on LinkedIn, which I think is an amazing idea, a great community-led initiative. And, we support that here on the show. But in a recent post you shared, I'm frequently contacted by aspiring lawyers who are struggling to break into the legal profession. It's a chicken and egg situation. They find that it's difficult to secure legal experience, and in turn, legal work experience is a prerequisite for most employers when hiring candidates. So, what are your top 3 tips for candidates to try and stand out?
Oh, it's a really good one. And I think it's the age-old question, because actually, I wish I'd have started, turning to LinkedIn a lot earlier. And what I would say is the fact that people are listening to this podcast, people are already on LinkedIn. They are already a million miles ahead of where I was when I was starting out and I was looking to break into the profession. So you're doing all the right things already. I would say in terms of the top 3 tips, it is about, firstly, I mean, this is an all-encompassing one, but it's a good one to start, and the most important one, it is finding your USP. So actually take some time to really sit down and have a think about who you are and what you are able to offer. And your first thought might be, well, I can't offer that much. I've not really had the chance to do that much. I haven't had experience of X, Y, and Z. But do you know what? That's not what it's about. It's about actually who you are and what your skill set is. And that will be something which you're naturally doing day to day, in be that in a part-time job you're doing at university. If we've got, I support so many career changes already, skills they've established as part of their first career. I think just really sit down and ask yourself that, because you'll find that it comes to you more quickly than you realize. You might find that you actually really want to start posting on social media, LinkedIn. That might be a good avenue for you. You might find that there's blog, you want to do a blog, or there's something like that, or actually networking comes really naturally to you. So you're actually someone that can speak to people and reach out. And I would absolutely say lean into what you're good at and what your strengths are, because that will enable you to effectively build your experience, seek out opportunities, because effectively you have to make your own opportunities in life. They don't just land in your lap. And I would just say, really consider what your strengths are, because that forms the basis of anything. Secondly, I would say that you really should, and I've touched upon it, networking, that is key.
Yeah.
I would honestly say the use of the pandemic, if it's done anything good, and it's debatable, but the pandemic has allowed much more, it's lent itself much more to remote working, to actually remote platforms, to social media. I think it just skyrocketed off the back of that, and people are utilizing it really, really well. Follow people, so actually look at good content creators who can provide sort of hints and tips daily, or who actually you can reach out potentially and almost initiate a relationship with. I've got people that cannot believe how brave people are, and I'm here for it. People will, in university, I've got A-level students that are reaching out, sending me a private message on LinkedIn going, "Hi Jen, I just, I hope you don't mind the message, but I just wanted to reach out and ask you X, Y, and Z." Wow. I mean, I could never have imagined doing that. And I've got so much respect for people that do that. And I think that is amazing. And I would just encourage more than that. Equally, don't expect to write probably a massive essay in a message and expect to really, an essay back. I only say that just because it's worthwhile tailoring it to who you're actually messaging, and maybe just asking a couple of quick fire questions which they can potentially come back with, and then seeing whether the dialogue opens. If someone doesn't respond, it's not for lack of them wanting to engage or help you. It may just be because they haven't seen it, or because they're busy, that sort of thing. So don't be deterred. I think that's another kind of feeds into 3 really. Do not be deterred or put off.
Yeah.
Goes back to what you were saying, Rob, about resilience, which is, you have to be resilient. You have to expect that you will be rejected. You may never have been rejected in your life before. You may be a straight A student who has just cruised through, who has been to the best universities. But you know what? It might be a slight advantage when you're applying, but you're effectively on a level playing field in terms of, when it comes to applications or making your own luck in applications. And I just think, do not be deterred. So I would definitely say, in summary, establish your USP, networking, and resilience. And resilience is going to be the word of this podcast, because it is so important. But to me, that's it all. In terms,
and it's gold. It's gold.
It's gold.
What you just shared, because there's quite a lot there, and I want to talk about mentoring in a minute, because I remember what one of my mentors said to me early on in the career, and it's pretty took me aback. Rob, you don't get what you deserve in this life, you get what you negotiate. And it's very true, when you think about that, and you have to shift that mindset. And folks, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So actually reaching out to those people And Jen shared a really good piece of wisdom there, because I get messages all the time, as you do, Jen. Specific is terrific. Remember that. So ask people specific, tailored questions related to them that leads with value, that's going to get a bounce back, because you can't just ask generics because people are busy. They can't, you're giving them no real incentive and that interest in them and why you're reaching out to them, other than showcasing that message has gone to 500 other people. So specific is terrific, and rejection, as we all know, folks, is just redirection, and resilience is absolutely the topic and the word for this show. So let's talk about mentoring, because I think mentoring is so key in the world of law, and I know you agree with me on that as well. And you've also provide a lot of mentorship to aspiring lawyers. You know, you've done work with 𝐥𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 Mentoring. You're a resourcing and development director there. Can you tell us just briefly a bit about the organization and what your role entailed?
Yeah, absolutely. So 𝐥𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 Mentoring, an incredible charity, which, you know, nothing but respect for Justin and Lucy, who Justin founded the charity, and they're doing incredible work in terms of to support thousands of aspiring lawyers in connecting with them with mentors across the country. They're putting on some, you know, national events which are fantastic, and I had the privilege of actually being in part of one of them. It was amazing, you know, really, really great. I was involved with the charity for a few months. Unfortunately, I just found that from a sort of time perspective, it was difficult for me to, you know, alongside a full-time role, and kudos to Lucy and Justin, because I don't know how they do it. But in terms of difficult for me to, you know, manage sort of a specific role in the charity. So I wasn't able to continue, but I support them so much in terms of, you know, what the work they're doing. And it enabled me, actually, just being at the event. I went to one of their global summits, and I was able to actually meet so many people through LinkedIn who would just come over and give me a hug and would just talk to me about things. And felt quite overwhelmed, to be honest. Imposter syndrome massively kicked in, and I was thinking, sorry, why do you want to talk to me? But it was so nice. I felt that it was actually truly lovely. And I think mentoring as a whole is super important. You mentioned the initiative I've started, which is sharing CVs and backgrounds of aspiring solicitors who are struggling to break into the profession. I've actually started mentoring, you know, a few on an ad lib basis off the back of that, and I mentor within my firm and just generally externally as well. It's so important to me, and I also get as much out of mentoring as I hope my mentees get out of it. And I truly believe in reverse mentoring, and the fact that I get, you know, that I come away sometimes and I thought that was possibly the most profound thing I have ever heard. And you are so much earlier in your career than me, but I'm taking it and I'm running with it, because that was incredible advice. And I just think that's what it is. It's, you feel as good about giving it as you do, as I think it is for a mentee to receive it. And I think there's no greater feeling than helping. I think it's so important we give back, because we are in a fortunate position. You know, being in the legal profession is a privilege. It's not an easy road to get here. You know, I don't take for granted the fact that I'm, you know, able to share on a platform to people and actually, you know, provide words of encouragement and hope and support to them. And I just think it's so important we give back. I think that's really the main thing for me about it, is why I've got this experience that I've, you know, developed. I've got firsthand, I know that rejection, firsthand I know how much it feels to be demoralized and to feel as though you're hopeless. Why would I not shout about that and make people know that they're not on their own in feeling like that?
And that's the power of community, because you're not alone. And I think, you know, what you're doing, and, you know, absolutely big advocate for mentoring. And another point you mentioned is a two-way street. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. You know, for people that I have been mentoring, I learned so much. You know, you get to suck up wisdom from all different avenues. It might just be that little turn of phrase. It might be that little thing, but it's an amazing thing. And I love it. And absolutely, you're not alone. And with people like Jen and other people in the legal community doing great things, there is support available now. And online has obviously helped that significantly. So I have two more quick questions before we wrap up, because you are, and I mentioned in the introduction, you're a senior litigator for the Association of Personal Injury Lawyers. So what responsibilities do you have as a senior litigator? Can you tell us a little bit?
So 𝐬𝐻𝐻's an amazing organisation in which I've been able to, it's privileged to be a member of 𝐬𝐻𝐻, which effectively meant I had to do a very detailed portfolio of evidence, going through cases and being able to evidence each and every aspect of that in order to effectively show that I was a senior litigator standard for 𝐬𝐻𝐻's, to satisfy 𝐬𝐻𝐻's requirements. And I think it was amazing actually when I was doing the portfolio, because you realise how much more you've done than actually, day to day you do your job, but then actually you're going through it and you realise, wow, I've actually done that. Oh, I did that too. And I'm very privileged to work for a firm where I've had exposure to so much and so much high value complex work, which has really opened my eyes to a lot. But yeah, that effectively, it's a portfolio type situation. It's great because you become part of that community, and it also just, I think it's quite nice for yourself to know that where you're up to in terms of your overall development, what you're able to offer to clients. Yeah, so that was fairly recent. I think that was about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's 𝐬𝐻𝐻 in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I love it. And, again, it's just another string to your bow and the great work that you're doing. So we've got a lot of wisdom from you today. But finally, what would be your advice for those interested in a career in medical negligence? What would be some of your top tips?
Well, firstly, fantastic that you're thinking about medical negligence, because it is the best area of law. And I know I'm biased, but it truly is. I would say in terms of, and also I should just add as well, Rob, I get a common question I get from aspiring lawyers is, do I need to have done medicine and ethics at degree? Do I need to have any sort of background in medicine? Or, is there any prerequisites for that? There absolutely isn't. And I would just say that there is nothing like that you have to worry about at all in terms of that. People I know that have, very successful medical negligence lawyers didn't do a law degree, have just done, law conversion course, done 𝐸LEX, all sorts. So let's bust that preconception now. In terms of general advice, I would say that you want to be doing your research about firms that specialise in medical negligence. So I know I'm biased, but Irwin Mitchell is an amazing one. But there are so many great firms which specialise depending where you are in the country. And I would just say, really do your research into different firms, different cases, and things which actually, as a firm, cases they might have won or things that are ongoing, just so you can really get a flavour for what it entails. So I think research is key. I'd also just, when you're thinking about applications, really you should be yourself, no matter which firm you're applying for, what area you're applying for, anything like that. But with medical negligence specifically, because there is so much emphasis on that human touch, that human side, then I think it is really important to actually get that across and convey that in applications, whilst also tailoring your application to the firm you're applying for, so as not to feel generic. And that's where I went wrong in my applications. I just did a generic application, generic covering letter, and then just sent it out. And that was just going to be tossed in the bin. Whereas actually, if you really do target, I would say 5-6 firms that you feel really passionate about and actually do your research to do with that. Work experience is a tough one. And I think we touched upon it in my post earlier, because it's so hard to actually secure work experience. It often, almost the bigger the firms, the more, you have to go through a certain process to get it. Not everyone has contacts in the legal profession. But I would say actually reach out to local firms and actually see whether they will offer work experience. Reach out to any firm, to be honest, because you don't ask, you don't get. Reach out to your contacts on LinkedIn, places that you actually enjoy, you want to work for, and see, because you never know. It only takes, you might reach out 10 times and only one of them says yes, but actually at least you've asked. And I would say work experience is good, but not a prerequisite. I'm more looking when for example, I'm hiring someone, I'm more looking at not even, your CV, yes, I'll look at it, but what do you have to say? What do you have to tell me about who you are? And I think just convey that personality and why you're passionate about medical negligence, what it is. I just want to know why you really want to do my area of law when I'm hiring you.
Yeah, it's true. It's having that passion, passion for what you do and conveying that across and really having a good why. And I always say you only need one yes. You only need one yes. So yeah, I love that. And Jen, this has been a fantastic conversation, and I'm sure our listeners are. So if they do want to get in touch or learn more about your career journey, what's the best way to do that? Feel free to shout out any social media handles, web links. We'll also share them with this episode for you too as well.
Sure, absolutely. By all means, if they want to, the best, probably the easiest method is if they want to connect with me on LinkedIn. So my name's Jen Shipley in terms of if you literally just type that in the top, I'm hoping you'll find me, not buried down there somewhere. But that way, there's all sorts of links on. You can drop me a private message on LinkedIn if you want to contact me, or alternatively, there's links to my 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐿 page if you want to contact me as well that way, and my email address, 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐿 email address. So absolutely, I'd encourage you to just have a look on there and contact me if you want to, even if it's just for a chat.
Well, there you go. And it all starts from a chat. That's networking, and your net worth is your network, as we always say. Jen, this has been an absolute blast. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Wishing you lots of continued success with your career and future pursuits. But for now, from all of us on the show, over and out. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you like the content here, why not check out our world-leading content and collaboration hub, the Legally Speaking Club, over on Discord. Go to our website, www.legallyspeakingpodcast.com, for the link to join our community there. Over and out.